Alrighty. Hi everybody. I'm going to go over the SPE process to drive a semi-truck commercially with an amputation or a prosthetic limb. The two kind of go hand in hand, obviously. I think they do these for other disabilities as well. I'm really not sure. But chances are if you found this, you already know that you need one and you're in the right place. I couldn't find any information online whenever I was pre-surgery. I was looking for how hard is this going to be to continue my livelihood after this happens, because if you're like most truck drivers, it's kind of in our blood. I know that's really cliche to say, but it's true. There's nothing that you can do outside of trucking that's going to make you happy if that's what you want to do, which is my case. I've hated every job I've ever had that wasn't trucking related. And there's really not any that are going to pay anywhere near the same. And with this happening, it becomes even more important because this is really the only job where you can still compete with your peers and become successful. You can be an owner-operator, you can be a company driver and be successful, you can still get great health care, you can take care of your family, just all the things that the trucking industry offers that a lot of people take for granted. It's a really good thing that this industry, you can still be competitive as a disabled person. With that said, that doesn't mean that it's easy. The SPE certificate deal, if you've already looked it up on the FMCSA website, they say that please allow 4 to 6 weeks, as this is a complex process and it takes time. I would bet $1 million that no SPE application has ever been completed in 4 to 6 weeks. I'm just being honest about that. If it has, I would be shocked, and it definitely hasn't happened under the administration that's there now. I'm not going to go too far into that. If you want to know my personal opinions on them and some of the problems I've had, shoot me an email. I'll talk to you in person about them, but there's only one person, as you're going to find out, that these hinge on in America right now, and part of it was my fault. Most of it wasn't. I don't want to get into that. That's a really long story, and it's irrelevant to what this video is about. The only thing I'll say is don't expect them to do what they should. Whenever you turn in your application, you need to be on the phone with them the day that you think they're going to get it. If you send it by email, right after you hit send, you need to be on the phone with them, making sure they got it. If within the next 5 days you've not heard anything, 5 business days. This is the federal government we're talking about. You need to be on the phone with them again or in their email again. And about half the time your email is going to be ignored, about as much as your phone call is. So you've really got to stay on top of this if this is something that you want to do. If not, the paperwork would literally just sit there for years untouched and ignored. I learned that the hard way. They left mine sitting in Tennessee for 3 months after my application was approved. First thing you're going to do is download and print the application off the FMCSA website. I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video and in the comments, because I watch a lot of YouTube and I never look at the descriptions, and I know nobody else does, so it'll be in both places. Whenever you print it off, you're going to want to print one side only. The PDF is set up to print on 2 sides. If you do that, you're going to end up with part of your SPE application printed on the back side of your long form for the medical card you print out, which is not a big deal. You can get a different medical card from the doctor. There's nothing special about this one. But it's just a lot easier to keep all the paperwork together and turn it in all as one. And that way, when you've got all the papers in your hand filled out, which should be like 24, you're good to go. You're good to send it in and get it approved. You're going to print that off, print on one side only, put in 24 pieces of paper. When it tells you to flip it over or whatever the printer tells you to do, just click OK and print it on the other 12 pages. You're going to need a new medical card filled out completely with the SPE box checked. I don't care if you got your medical card a day before you got injured. You have to get a new medical card that has your new ailment, whatever it may be, specifically listed on it, and the box has to be checked that says you need an SPE certificate to go along with your medical card. Don't take that medical card that's incomplete at this point and put it on your license at the DMV. If your medical card is still valid, don't do that. If your old one's still valid, don't do anything with the DMV yet, because your medical card now is not complete without an SPE certificate with it. And I'm not sure what they would do in that situation, but you don't want to find out, I promise. It's not anything that's going to be favorable to you. Let's see, you do that. And oh, by the way, you can do that like before anything happens. The day you get your leg or arm or whatever amputated, if you can walk into that doctor's office, they'll give you a medical card. I got a 2-year medical card the day after I got my prosthetic leg made to send with this. You don't have to be in the greatest physical shape, because they're not releasing you to drive a truck. They're releasing you to get an SPE certificate, and they release you to drive a truck, if that makes any sense. I've got a list over here I'm looking at. You need a copy of the front and back of your CDL plus your 3-year MVR from the DMV in your state that goes with this application. Turn in a complete application plus everything that I've listed so far and everything that you've seen right here. Unilateral application is the only type that they do anymore, so that's all you have to worry about. This is really important, the medical evaluation summary. It's a part of this that you print off. Do your damnedest. If you're in the middle of whatever you've got going on, I don't know the best way to put it. But if you're in the middle of it still and you have an ortho surgeon, they have to be an orthopedic surgeon. Have to. They got to be either board qualified or board eligible. One of the two. That's the only people that can sign this. Now it says, or a board certified physiatrist, but it might as well not. Those guys right there don't want you to go back to work. These guys right here want you to go back to work. They want to see people succeed and get better and go on with their life. This guy right here, whenever you meet one of them, you'll find out exactly what I mean. They make $2,000 from every person that comes into their office, and they make money keeping you hooked on pain pills and keeping you basically in treatment or rehab the rest of your life. So much so that I had already had my SPE certificate completely done, except for one driving test that I had to retake half of the driving test, and I was going to do that a couple of days after I went to this guy, the physiatrist. So to say I was already way beyond the point of stopping and doing physical rehab is putting it lightly. You know, there wasn't no stopping at this point. I've got through all the hurdles, and this guy actually had the nerve to say, I'm not okay with that. You've got another year or better before you can go back to work. And I said, dude, I've already been out of work for a year. I've already reached MMI. I've already got my disability rating. I'm going back to work. I'm not getting paid right now. And I had not been paid for 2 months at the time that I saw him. And he was trying to stop my progress and going back to work, which I think we can all agree is by far the most ideal option. You know, people going straight onto disability and relying on the government or whatever it is they rely on that's not ideal, and that's not what doctors are supposed to do. They're supposed to help people be as good as they were before they were injured or got sick, and these cocksuckers don't do that. I'll just put it bluntly. I refused to be treated by him, and he refused to have me as a patient as well. It was a two-way agreement because I was like, dude, if I do physical therapy for another year, I'm going to be homeless doing fucking physical therapy. I was like, I will be good at walking by the end of that year because I'll be walking here every day. All my vehicles are going to be gone and I can't put gas in them. That's the way that'll end up working. I was like, that's just completely irrational, especially when that was literally the first person that I came across that did not support me doing what I want to do, you know. It was just really weird. So don't count on them. And if you're already released by an orthopedic surgeon, just make an appointment with an ortho doctor and explain to them your situation, and they will help you out. It's not that hard. Most of them aren't heartless. Yeah, they want their money and this, that, and the other, but if you're somebody that they're not going to be making money off of anyway, them seeing you one time for $1,000 to fill out this paperwork for you, I mean, that's a gimme, you know. Anywho, after that, you're going to do a road test. I had to spend a little bit of time on that because that's super important for a lot of people. They're not going to be thinking like I was at the time. Like the day that I got hurt, before I ever even got close to losing my leg, I was trying to figure out when I could go back to work. And honestly, the day that I thought I was going to go back to work originally ended up being the day that I got my leg amputated. Just to kind of put that in perspective. But a lot of people don't go through this. They have a lot of depression, setbacks, physical limitations that I didn't have because I was in amazing shape. I was doing a really hard job when I got hurt, luckily. And I was in really good shape. So laying around for a year, although it destroyed my health, you know, it didn't slow me down so much that I couldn't go back to driving a truck. All right. After that, and after you send this in and it gets approved by whatever region you're in, even though I think the Southeast is the only one that's doing them at this time, you'll do a road test. Don't sweat the road test. That was my big thing. I was scared to death because it had been 8 years since I had even thought about doing a proper pre-trip. You know what I mean? Like, as far as having all the numbers and all the details memorized that they want you to, I thought it was just going to be some big deal, but it's not. It's a person with the FMCSA, not even your state, really. They'll be based in your state, but they work for the FMCSA. And they're trained to see how you operate physically, not how much you know about the laws, if that makes any sense. Like the ones getting your CDL, you know, they got to make sure that you know all these laws and you've got that little green book memorized and you can drive a truck. These people are looking to see if you can physically do the job. That's the main thing they're looking at. So it's not a big deal whatsoever. It's really, really simple once you figure it out and you get comfortable with it. You might have to take it once or twice, maybe even 3 times. I don't know. I still don't know if I passed or not. I'm pretty sure I did because the way he talked to me, you know. He was like, I can't tell you whether you passed or not, but you did really, really good, you know, kind of like that. So I'm thinking everything's fine now. And if not, whatever it is I have to correct is not going to be near as bad as the first time. If you've lost your right leg, I can go ahead and tell you, you better use hand controls the first time and use a manual transmission too. Whatever you test in, that's what you're going to be limited to. If you show up with a manual transmission, they're not going to put any caveats to it or any, whatever they call them, restrictions. They're not going to put an automatic restriction on your license. Let's see, copy of your MVR, I've already went over that. Let's see, I've got my other thing over here. Difficulties and timeline. Difficulties, I've touched on that a little bit already too. Just stay on top of them and know that you're not going to get this done in 4 to 6 weeks. If you do, I need to know what region that you used to get it done, because at the end of my 2 years when I have to renew this, I swear to God, I will move my company and my family, if I have to whatever region it is that has a competent person running this program, to get away from the one I'm in right now. It's literally that bad. Let's see here. That's it for that. And the rest of the application is just like a job application. No different. Fill it out completely. If you don't have information, then you don't have information. Here's what they're looking for in their test and how they rate you whenever they're doing that. This is for the old system that they used where companies could actually verify drivers. This is also on the SPE website. It's just a copy of that, really, showing their service centers. But like I said, I think the Southern with Miss Fortenberry is the only one that's working right at this moment. And she's got her hands full. I get aggravated with them and talk bad about them, but they've got my career in their hands, and I'm going to be protective of that. I've worked extremely hard to get to the point where I'm at in 1 year's time, where I lost my right leg above the knee. Well, I got my prosthetic leg in February. I had this whole application in Atlanta filled out and cleared by the end of February. Just to give you an idea of how serious that I'm taking this. I wasn't playing around with this because I knew learning how to walk and physical therapy and all that stuff could happen in the same time that I'm messing with this, and I knew this was going to be the biggest hurdle that was in my way by far, and it has been. I wasn't at all wrong about that. This is, compared to losing my leg and having to learn how to walk again, this is 5 times worse than any of that, and I'm just being honest about it. It's a nightmare. Let's see. Vehicle type on the medical evaluation part, you need to fill that out. Don't expect your doctor to know shit about trucking. You don't know shit about being a doctor, he ain't gonna know shit about trucking. If it's something you know he doesn't know the answer to, fill it out for him and just have him sign the damn thing. They're going to do a physical demand. You need to put right there, unless you like automatic transmissions and that's what you plan on driving the rest of your life, you need to put at least an 18 speed right there. I put both. I put I think a 6 and a 4. I either wrote 6 and a 4/18 or twin stick /18 speed, just to cover my own ass, really. I tried to put the most complex shifting patterns in my application as I could. That way they can't ever come back and say, well, Mr. Rowan, you only put the 10 speed here, so you're limited to a 10 speed. We're going to have to give you a ticket. No, screw that. Screw that. Let's see. That's just more questions for the doctor. This is a medical long form. Everybody knows what that looks like. Don't need to go over that. All right, over here. The actual driving part. I've made a diagram. Now my computer went to sleep. I made a diagram of a standard parking lot based off the one that I took my test in Chattanooga. And there it is. So what you do, you got a staging area right here. It's more spots than that, but that's irrelevant to this. All right, you pull over here to a spot all by yourself. You'll probably be the only person there. There may be 1 or 2 people. He'll tell you to do your pre-trip here. All right, you do your walk around, and I can't stress this enough. If you're still fighting, if you're doing this all really soon like me, and you're still way out of shape, and you know that this 2-hour-long test is going to be the hardest thing you've done in a year, you need to do your drop and hook as you're doing your pre-trip. That's going to show them that you're thinking far ahead and putting your disability in front of everything else you're doing. That shows them that you're coming up with ways to make the job easier on yourself and make it to where you can do it safely without stressing your body too much. When I failed the first time, that was one of the things I failed for. Before I went down there, I borrowed a good friend of mine's truck. That's awesome. He's an angel. Trey, if you ever watch this, I appreciate that. He let me borrow his truck twice now to go do this with, because I don't have mine yet. I've got to wait on my settlement before I buy mine. But I couldn't get the electrical line unhooked from the trailer. It's a really old flatbed equipment trailer. And make sure you can drop and hook the trailer before you get down there. I didn't have any tools, and I decided to do the drop and hook at the very end of the test. Well, at the very end of the test, I almost passed out and had to be caught by the FMCSA guy. So it goes without saying, I failed spectacularly. The only thing I passed that time was the backing, and there's something else I didn't have to do. Both the backing exercises I passed, and the pre-trip, I passed it as well. I had to redo the driving portion and the drop and hook. But yeah, do your drop and hook as you're doing your walk around. Then you're going to do a straight line back. You'll pull up till your bars clear these cones. And then you'll back through till your bumper clears the cones. Simple. Just don't move the damn wheel. It's not rocket science. And then you'll come over here to this one and do your standard alley back and your little W9 or whatever that truck is that I've made and put too much time and detail into. Same thing as like on the normal test, except they're not looking for how beautifully you can get the truck in there or how many pull-ups you're doing. They're just looking to see that you can back the truck in safely and you can physically get it in there without tearing shit all to hell. If they do have a box like this at the back of it, this is one thing I got a couple of points taken off for. And I've made a note there. I didn't know where he wanted me to stop the trailer. So I just put the rear axle, it was a single axle. I put the rear axle in between those cones and that stop pad. That wasn't what I was supposed to do, and looking back, that was a stupid assumption. But this part right here is what they're calling the dock, or whatever it is you're backing up to. So don't let the ICC bar go past this point right here. If you have to get out and look, just get out and look. And as long as you get it in between the cones, then they don't even measure it. That's just a full pass. You're good to go. As far as the driving test goes, I think you've got to go a minimum of 30 miles or something like that. It's either 30 or 20. You're going to use the same route that the DMV that you meet the FMCSA guy uses for their CDL test. So ours, I want to say it was a 10 to 15 mile route, and I had to do it twice. He wrote down the odometer, make sure the odometer works in the truck you take, because they have to use the odometer mileage to verify everything. But I had to go around that track twice, basically, and whenever I came back, we was done. Super duper simple. I'm not sure guys that are below knees or even left leg above knees and below knees. I don't know how you'll have to do it, but even though I could drive a truck smoother and better with just my left foot, floating the gears, it's not hard to figure out if you've been a truck driver for a while. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take any real skill either. It takes about 2 seconds worth of practice and you'll be good at it. I had to use hand controls that I got online. I think they were like $150 because I don't ever plan on using them for anything else. They're super duper cheap. They've got a little button on the end of them, and you push that button down and that's your gas, and then you got a handle sticking out to the side of the button and you push that down for your brake. That's pretty simple. That's what I use to pass it. And you need to practice with those in a truck before you go to do your SPE test. Once I got going, everything was fine, but on the low side of the transmission, doing the fuel with one hand, something you're going to come across is like with your foot, you do it automatically. Whenever you take off, you'll floor the truck and let it have the fuel that it needs to get going in low range, and you'll let up and shift and you'll floor it again. You don't do this half motion Well, when you're doing it with your hands, you're going to be trying to do this half motion, and it is such a hard thing to break. By the end of the 30-mile test drive through downtown Chattanooga, I just barely got to where I was somewhat comfortable, just letting her have it. That way it would be smooth. You don't have to floor it. You know what I mean. You're rolling into it to float your gears. Just like that. And you go to the floor. Let up, shift, like that again. Well, when you're doing it with your hands, you're going to be trying to do it in this 2 inches up here. And that's not even getting any fuel to the motor. And what you're going to end up doing is get into that situation where the truck's going, wow, 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 wow. And you're fighting the transmission because you're over revving it. I did that the whole time and looked like the biggest idiot and felt like the biggest idiot. So don't be like me. Practice before you go. I know it's illegal, but, whatever. Find somewhere where you can practice. At least running around in low range and shifting in low range. Once you get into high range, that problem goes away. But in low range, it's a serious problem, and it takes some real getting used to. Just trust me on that one. I don't think he failed me for it because the hand controls were his idea, and I made it a point to point that out to him. I was like, hey, dude, you're the one that said I got to use this. You already know that I can drive a truck a lot better with one foot than I can with a foot and a hand. And he's like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. I can tell you're going to be fine, and this, that, and other. So, anywho, I hope that helps everything, or helps somebody and gives you just a little bit more information on this since nobody has any. If you have any questions about amputees, prosthetics, driving a truck as an amputee, being an owner-operator in general, an independent owner-operator, or even a lease operator. Hell, I've done a lot of stuff. And I know exactly how not to do a whole list of things. So if you ever have any questions or you need any advice on anything, shoot me an email. It's jrowland, ROWLAND 2010 at gmail.com or klrtransportation at gmail.com. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.